Welcome to The Bell Curve, the podcast for aspiring entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Jake Zapata.
And I'm your co-host, Tom Hittinger. We launched this podcast to help entrepreneurs kickstart their ideas and early ventures.
We're all used to the biopics from titans of industry, speaking from the mountaintops of massive companies, but often miss the authentic stories of entrepreneurs in the trenches, actively climbing the mountain.
Here, we share our stories and those of our esteemed guests, co-founders and executives, breaking down what propelled them to success and how they braved adversity and uncertainty.
Let's jump in. Here at The Bell Curve, just to give a little bit about the podcast, we're all about equipping young professionals and aspiring entrepreneurs with the knowledge and tools to launch their own ideas. We're very particularly excited to feature you, Trevor, who has lived kind of both lives, right? So you've been working in corporate America at one point, and then you, while working a job, built Xebec kind of part-time and then took that company from 0 to 1. You're now the co-founder and COO of that company. So you've kind of done it all, from designing in like the brand, the new patents, taking part in like viral TikTok and social media campaigns. And from what I understand, you bootstrapped the company to $2 million in sales in like 5 months, which is crazy growth. I think in the middle of the pandemic, which is, I think, excellent timing for a product like yours. And so we're extremely excited to have you on. Tom told me about you about a week ago, and I was like, "Who's Trevor?" And he told me about it. I was like, "Oh my God, this guy's like, like you read about guys like you." So we're excited to have you on. And then you have the Jesus flowing hair, so it's even better.
Yeah, the flow started mid-pandemic. I was with every other guy who said this is the perfect time when I'm not seeing what happens, so I grow it out. And then it actually started.
What you're saying is you launched this company, and as the company grew, your hair grew. It's kind of like one and the same.
Yeah.
The longer your hair gets, the more successful the company becomes.
Exactly. Except for then I cut it. So
and you saw sales dip for a quarter, right?
I
think you told me that.
No. Now it just keeps exploding.
No, but in all seriousness, Trevor, to introduce you to our audience here, you're a good friend. We've known each other now dating back almost a decade, I think probably 9 years or so. And as Jake mentioned, you're the COO and co-founder of Xebec, a hardware and tech startup with patented technology that basically, I know your company mission is enabling today's professionals to be successful in the modern mobile workplace, which we're all really familiar with these days with remote work. Before launching Xebec in 2020, I know you spent 5 years based in New York City, living the consulting life between some really big name firms, Protiviti and Deloitte. And if I'm not mistaken, you're like a Texas Longhorn through and through, back to like cradle all the way through getting your degree in business and finance. Is that right?
Very much so. Yeah. My dad and my brothers all went to UT. So from day one, my brothers are much older. So by the time I even knew what college was, they were still in college. And it was, so ever since then, I said, I'm going to UT. But yeah, coming from Austin, it's hard not
to.
Yeah.
I would say hook 'em horns, Trevor, but I come from a family of Aggies, so they'd kill me if I said it.
It's tough. No, my sister-in-law is an Aggie now, and so we've all accepted her as an Aggie and had to learn. Of course, now Aggies have been killing it versus the Longhorns as of late, so we just have to recognize that, and hopefully UT is back one day. We'll see what happens there.
Excellent. So you're living in Austin now. Like, how do you like being back in Austin? How has it changed from when you were in college, like in the early 2010s to kind of now?
Yeah, very, very different. It's even what's funny too is just growing up there to having people. Sometimes I won't know where something is. People say, "What are you talking about? You're from here." Well, one, I'm from the Lake Travis area outside of it, and then two is it's changed so much ever since then. I'm even leaving after school, coming back 4.5 years later, it was a different city, and recognized that very quickly. But I love it. I like seeing it. I mean, I loved being in New York City, so obviously like big cities. Austin, I like for very different reasons, but even just seeing things expand and grow I think it's fun. There's just different areas that did not exist beforehand where you can hang out in different restaurants, bars, all that kind of stuff. So I love it. But yeah, it's all over the news. It's clearly a very high growing city at this point, and difficult to rent, difficult to buy, which I learned very quickly, but I still love it here and glad to be back where there's a lake.
Yeah, that's awesome. And have you seen the Trevor Wallace skit where he compares like he does it on Austin, Texas? And do you agree that Austin is basically just Portland with machine guns?
I think I saw that skit. I did. I've seen a lot of his. I don't remember if I don't remember the Portland reference. I have to say I discounted it, but that is hilarious.
Wait, Trevor, don't you know Trevor Wallace?
No, I can't.
Okay.
No,
I definitely. No. I definitely thought you were connected to Trevor Wallace somehow. I have a friend who knows Trevor Wallace. Whatever. They were on a bachelor party a few weeks ago
really?
together, apparently. So you're not that friend, clearly. But
no, that is not me. He would be a funny friend to have. Though.
Pretty fascinating.
So jumping in kind of into the interview here, we'd like to just ask a few questions, kind of set a foundation for our listeners. We have enough data now to understand that our listeners are kind of between the ages of like 19, 20 to like 34. And so a lot of the folks that are listening are kind of like in college or like right out of college. And to kind of set a foundation of like kind of who you were in your early 20s, when you were in their shoes, kind of in college, coming right out of college, did you ever kind of imagine yourself as an entrepreneur or somebody who would kind of like launch and start their own company?
Yeah, I wouldn't say no exactly by any means. I know that there was always some part of inkling in me that said I wanted to start a company one day. When or what that was, I had no clue, but I just always found it fascinating to be able to do that and thought it'd be exciting. I think as with most entrepreneurs, had no clue what that actually entailed until I jumped into it. But with that said, I was still have the mindset of, I'm going to get my degree, get like a normal job coming out of college. And because at the time in college, I didn't have some grand idea that I thought would be worth risking it all and just saying, I'm going to jump straight into that. But at the end of the day, it was, and I think it's a good idea for people to jump into, your normal job first, explore what you actually truly like, explore your passions, and use that as a time period to learn about yourself. And it was great to be able to do that. And then, be able to use that time on my nights and weekends to explore other ideas I had, and including this one until we finally launched it. So long story short, yes, there was an interest, but what that exactly looked like.
That's awesome. And then at UT, were you like a good student, or were you just kind of like average, or were you like us where you just didn't go to class that much and it still kind of worked out?
We have to ask the bell curve question.
Had to.
I would say I was I would say I was a good student. I wasn't a 4.0 student, but I was a good student. And I mean, I've always been very studious, whether it was in high school or in college, and took that very seriously, and did my best on making sure I got the best grades I could, but also wanted to make sure I had a social life and was in organizations and be able to make the most of college. So I think it was, I hope that answers the question. I did go to class. I can say that. There was some that maybe I skipped and just watched online or something, which my roommates would definitely make fun of me for. But there was.
Wait, Trevor, is that a dig on our first episode where we all admitted we didn't go to class? Is that a subtle dig there?
No, Jake just said. He said, "Oh, we were like us, where we didn't go to class." I did hear that the first person saying that she learned how to not go to class, which I thought, hey, go for it. If you can find somebody to record for you, that's very efficient. If you're able to learn that way. I know some people, on the other hand, I have to be in there to learn. I think if you don't have to go over there, you might as well not. I mean, that goes with working remote.
Yeah.
So,
well, and Trevor, so we're both used to consulting in that world, right? So what in particular drew you to consulting as your first post-grad job?
Yeah, so initially I did finance as my degree, and then was very interested in the commercial banking world. Not really banking in general, not necessarily iBanking, but I was very interested in getting into commercial or corporate banking. But after that, learned more about the consulting world. And that was really because just from what I heard was you get to work on a lot of projects. It's great for people who don't know exactly what they want to get into, which I think is 99% of college graduates. And so figured if there's any way to learn about myself, it'd be go through consulting and be able to just jump into a variety of projects across different industries. And I did end up really focusing on the financial industry, but for all 4 or 5 years. However, it was an awesome opportunity I think really anybody who wants to get into entrepreneurship, it's a great start because it just teaches you how to learn without knowing anything. I mean, they throw you on projects and call you a SME and say, figure it out. And it's like, hey, I've never done any of this, but you learn how to Google very quickly and how to actually learn how to do things that you may not have any experience with. And so that's what starting a business is all about. I mean, you have no business doing anything you're setting out to do, but you have to figure it out along the way.
I love that because, I mean, at the end of the day, one of the things I'm most fascinated by in your story is you managed to launch an entire business in your spare time while working 60 plus hours a week, right? And that is incredibly uncommon from what I've gathered and from the folks we've spoken to. NYC, where we both lived, is notorious for people always claiming to have a side hustle. I had this thing, I had this idea, like you'll hear about it more, but you actually had a side hustle and eventually quit your day job and launch this company. So like, how did you manage to?
Yeah, I mean, I do have to say that. So Alex, our CEO and co-founder, so he was the brains behind the product. So I do need to put that out there. And so he's the one who came to me with the idea and said, hey, and really he's a big part of the whole story though, is he was also in consulting. So he was at Accenture at the time. And that's really how he thought of it was, hey, on the road, working in these conference rooms, being squeezed in with everybody or in the hotel room or whatever it might be. And yeah, there are these monitors that you can bring with you, but it's just a pain to lug around. And then you also take up additional desk real estate. And so he just started building it for himself initially, thinking there's got to be a better way to do this. And then realized, there's actually probably a bigger market out here. So called me up because he knew that I was also in consulting and would probably have an interest in it. And we go way back. We've been friends since we were toddlers. And so I was fully on board and said, let's do it. And so that's really where the nights and weekends came into play was, he would spend his time, of course, building it out and prototyping and dealing with all that. And then I was helping out with more of the other business organizational elements and just seeing what all we needed to push it forward. But yeah, it was definitely a lot. I'd say some weeks were tougher than others, and it definitely takes commitment of just saying, all right, I guess my night on this weeknight, I'm going to spend doing that instead of going out to dinner or something. But it was also nice because I was on the road, so it was either sit in my hotel room and watch Netflix or sit in my hotel room and work on this. So that was an easy decision. But no, I think a big part of the story and what I would recommend in general is just being able to, it's not always take this big, huge risk, drop everything and go without knowing anything about what you're about to do. I think it's great to test along the way and figure out, is this a worthwhile risk to take? So it was a perfect channel to be able to do it.
I love that you guys, this is a personal problem that you're experiencing. You're both on the road, you're both consultants. Yeah. And then, I mean, again, like you said, credit to Alex and really excited to meet him. You guys really took a personal problem and then innovated a technology from it rather than, I know many people make a technology and try to find a problem afterward. So how did you eventually make the decision to quit your day job and like go all in on this kind of leap of faith with Xebec?
Yeah, that was a constant question me and Alex were discussing because he was the first one to be our first full-time employee. And then from there it was really how we narrowed it down was a question of when does the business need somebody else? Until then, obviously, his mindset was, hey, feel free to take the jump whenever. We could always use the help. But realistically, knowing let's mitigate risk as much as possible. When does the business need additional help? And it's funny, I also remember my uncle had some entrepreneurial experience or has done a few things in his career in that avenue, and I asked him for advice on how to know, and his answer was, "Oh, you'll just know." And at the time, I just thought, I hate that. Why would you even tell me that? But it was actually extremely true. Alex had been pushing it along, and there just came a time when we continued to talk about it and just said, "Yeah, we need somebody now." And so at that point, it was a bit of also, "Hey, my bonus is coming up. Do we have another few months that we can maybe delay that?" And it was, we could, but we would really like to have you. And I was also excited at that point. I mean, I was excited the whole time, but the further along we were getting, I was just, that's where my focus was and that's where my brain was. And I was really wanting to jump at it. And so decided just to take the leap then. I guess that was in mid 2020. July of 2020. And I mean, ultimately, I would say that was truly a time when the business needed it. There was a ton going on. We had already launched official sales through our website, running as a true business. And so there's plenty of needs operationally, customer experience wise. Just Alex was focused on the engineering, and so there's plenty of needs to go around. And it was awesome to finally take that leap. And
so you left when you guys like had sales already, so you knew that people at least wanted the thing.
Yeah, and so that was a very nice part of mitigating the risk, was understanding, sure, it's beginning stages as you can get after launching a product, but also it's nice to know that there's actually interest in this, as opposed to a year before that where it's an idea and we have no clue if people would ever want this, to say I'm going to quit my job at that point. But and it's one of those things, I don't know, people ask about it, and I think you are never going to know entirely when is the best time. You just kind of have to recognize yourself, am I interested enough in this to really take this risk at this point? And I also did some reflection of, I think this is a great question to ask yourself with anything, is am I going to really regret this if I don't do it? And the answer was yes. And so kind of had to do it and see what happened, and understanding that worst case scenario, if anything does fall through, I'm confident I'll be able to go take my experiences that I have learned and get a job elsewhere if needed. But took that all in together to make
Absolutely. That's awesome. And if you could, for people who don't know what Xebec is, I think a lot of people have seen your ads like on social media and are familiar with the product, but could you just kind of break down the product in your terms? Let's explain what it is.
Yeah. So the Tri-Screen, the actual product, is a laptop accessory that you put on the back of your laptop. 2 screens slide out from either side, and you plug it in, and now you've got a portable 3-screen solution that's you can take with you on the go. And so what's very unique about it, and compared to some of the other things you might see out there, is that there's no magnets, no permanent adhesives required. It's truly plug and play. It uses an elastic band mechanism that allows you to just simply put it on the back of your laptop and take it with you. So very easy to put on, take off. And from there, really, obviously that is our flagship product and our number one. And we now in the second iteration of it, we launched the Tri-Screen 2 last year, which is just way better in terms of the branding and design of it. And we still keep it, the same size and the same functionality, but different port locations and a lot of improvements there. But it was just really important. We can get more into that later about launching and how you decide when is the final product ready. But and so that's our flagship product. And then from there, we also launched the Air Stand. And so that is a laptop stand that's you put on the bottom of your laptop using adhesive, and that way it's flat when you don't want it, and then when you do want to use it, you just flick it out and it works right there. So another portable solution, because at the end of the day, we're working on a variety of products to really become a true laptop accessories company, where we offer a variety of products that you can essentially just take your entire office with you on the go, as opposed to only the additional screens.
I love that. And so basically, like, your IP, what you patented, Trevor, was that elastic band mechanism that you mentioned on the Tri-Screen, right?
Yeah. So without getting into too many details that might bore people, it's all about that elastic mechanism, and then the way that it places on your back of your laptop. And so that's why you'll see, you might see some knockoffs on Amazon that we are currently in the process of dealing with, but otherwise, that's why you'll see the legitimate brands out there that have not touched that, and that they actually use the magnets that you place on the back of your laptop.
And we'll definitely want to kind of jump in and talk about, what, your success, like it's like the ultimate form of flattery. People try to copy you because they see your product working, right? But it does come with a lot of headaches, and it does siphon off revenue that should be going to you and your company because you own the patent. Before we get there, though, I do want to talk about kind of the launch and what happened right after. So my understanding is you guys actually went viral pretty quickly. I do remember seeing the first ads that you guys did. I think a lot of people did, especially those that were kind of in tech or knowledge workers. You seem to kind of catch that COVID remote working tailwind right at the right time. And with everybody kind of going remote, looked like the product was flying off the shelf. So was that by design, or were you kind of surprised on how quickly that took off the way it did?
I guess I wouldn't say I was surprised how quickly it took off, but we by no means timed it with COVID, of course. It is funny, which is a legitimate question though, because some people have asked, oh, was this a COVID product? Did you launch this after COVID happened because you recognize a need, which by no means was that it. I mean, Tom, you heard me talking about it back in 2017 when we first started working on it. So I had no clue that would ever happen. And it was just extreme coincidence where at first it was definitely scary because, we had no clue what the world was about to do, if we'd even be able to manufacture this thing that we had started on. But luckily that we were able to work out and ensure that we were able to get the products out. And then from there, clearly people were looking all over the place for how do I work from home and maintain my productivity. And so it's tough to say because there's not a benchmark. We don't have sales from pre-COVID that we can compare it to. But I mean, I think anybody would have to say, of course, there's now everything has changed in terms of work life and everybody being remote, whether that's 100% or even just flexible remoteness and hybrid work culture. And so from there, it's clearly people looking around for that. But yeah, we were very excited with the sales. I mean, from day one, it started, pushing out, and we actually, a good problem to have, as we say, even though it was a frustrating one, was spending a lot of time on back orders where we would sell through our inventory and then we'd still sell through the website and, customers could still purchase, but you'd have to wait a couple of weeks or even upwards of a max. I think we got to a month at sometimes. And that's, at that point, you're also losing money or money that you could have had because people expect 2-day shipping nowadays. And so this year we've done a lot better job of recognizing that and be able to get more inventory on hand to take care of that. But it's a really interesting balance of trying to project your demand and how much you can truly sell, and so that you don't have inventory for too long, but you also don't go on back.
And you guys have done a pretty good job going viral, like on social media. So for context, if you go into the Xebec TikTok page, you guys have a video that has 26 million views, it's got 2.7 million likes. How do you go viral on TikTok? How do you put that together and then launch that so that it just takes off the way it does? Because that's a ton of exposure for free.
Yeah, and we were really excited when we saw that one go off, and it is crazy to see it and then just see the sales clearly take an incline for that day at least. And so, I mean, before even getting to that, I think it's important to note that our whole philosophy as a business is to put the brand first and truly be a lifestyle brand. And so you look at the computer accessories space and you don't really see that too much. People actually making a lifestyle brand out of it, compared to you look at somewhere like Yeti, where they've done an amazing job of taking a cooler, which by no means is something that you would identify with in the beginning days and say, oh, this is an awesome company because they made a cooler. But they did an amazing job of putting the brand first there and being able to have people truly identify with it. And, I might even buy a Yeti hat before I even buy a Yeti product just because I think it's a cool brand. And then when I do use their products, I truly, it just makes me feel like I'm part of that culture. And so that's really what we're trying to do here, is also build out that lifestyle brand. And so with that came a big focus on social media presence and organically building users, and then also, or not building users, building that brand, and then also through social media advertising to push sales. That's just purely an e-commerce thing. But with regards to going viral on on TikTok and Instagram or whatever it might be, our marketing team has just absolutely killed it. And I think there is a lot of art to it as well as opposed to just a science. I mean, you can put something on TikTok that you think is going to explode, and you're really excited for it because you made a really cool video, and then it does nothing. And then you post something else and it goes crazy and you had no clue what to expect on it, which this is a good example of. It was really just a video of the tri-screen itself. There was nothing funny about it. It was just, here's the tri-screen, and it went crazy. And so, but yeah, I mean, there was a lot of effort our marketing team put into that, of being intentional, a lot of research on how to go about that with different social media platforms, and then just continue to push forward even when you may not see success right away. And then once you build on top of that, it is definitely easier to get more and more people. I'd say it's a bit exponential on build orders there.
I do love that. TikTok it kind of became this lifestyle app. We might not use that language, right? But TikTok coincided with COVID, where everyone's at home, they're making videos because they have nothing else to do. And like the usership just skyrocketed, and it's been persistent now. They're competing with YouTube. But I think it's so fascinating that, like you said, you experiment with different platforms and clearly had success. I mean, 50,000 Instagram followers, now almost 160,000 TikTok followers. Was your thought on making like a lifestyle brand? Did it precede any of your like social media campaigns, or did you kind of come to that realization over time? Like, hey, this is really resonating with people. Did you take user feedback and comments and surveys and all of that and start to like mold this like idea of a lifestyle brand over time?
It preceded a lot of our ads and a lot of our just organic growth on social media with our actual pages. But it was, first priority was build the product. At that point, 2017, 2018, there was no thought on how do we build a lifestyle brand. It was more so there was probably some, but for the most part, it was how do we build a product, which is first and foremost of importance. But then, after launching it, I mean, that was part of the plan, was we want to build a direct to consumer e-commerce brand and actually focus on the brand itself. And we think that is the best way to go about it, because at that point, the best way to get repeat customers is to have people who are not only happy with the product, but also identify with the brand and want to come back because they know who you are. And it also helps with, when they do finally see those knockoffs that come their way or other competitors, whatever it might be, they're going to say, either way, I'm willing to stick with this brand because I truly like who they are. And so, to answer your question, it definitely was an initial thought, an initial plan. And it's just something that we continue to iterate on. And at the end of the day, it's never going to be, perfect. There's always room to improve. And so being able to continue to iterate on it as we go, as we do with anything, whether it's the brand or the product.
I feel like this would be you guys were perfectly positioned as well to kind of hop on the digital nomad train. And that happened during COVID. Did you all take advantage of using some of the influencers that were starting to get big during the coronavirus pandemic and with like digital nomadism? With the product as well? Yeah,
so we've definitely now, we have influencers who we've sent the products out to, and that's definitely a good channel to get the word out, especially through a brand capacity. And then the digital nomad trend initially was, I'd say, a bit tougher when everyone's in lockdown because no one's traveling really. But so at that time it was still just focused on working remote, whereas now it's really cool to see everybody actually out and about, and truly there are people who live that digital nomad life. And so we love working with influencers who do that and just really being able to represent and show people how you can use the product, because it's one thing to talk about it, another thing to actually see somebody using it, whether it's on the beaches or go to Tulum and spend some time. Tulum's, from what I've heard, is a great way to do that because they actually have a bunch of, the Wi-Fi is great there. That's a great spot for digital nomads, but somebody who might be a coder and go work in Thailand and everything. So it's been great to be able to work with people who actually do it and be able to show how it's done.
Love that. Well, and what's so fascinating.
And then also do it ourselves. I mean, it was just, Alex, our co-founder and CEO, he's actually in Europe for several months with his wife. And so it's been great to see him living out the brand there. I was there for 2 weeks with him, as y'all know, and it was incredible to be able to, we worked a lot during the weeks, but it was great to be able to, get up, explore, then work, have a bit of the time zone here in the US so we could overlap and then finish up. And so it just goes to show, I was looking at it and I said, I looked at Alex and was just joking. I was like, this would be very tough without the tri-screen, just because you're stuck, roaming around all the time, whether it's hotel, airport, train, whatever it might be. And it's great to always have that with you.
I hope you recorded those conversations for your next ad.
I think those conversations are a little bit obvious to throw into an ad, but no, we did shoot for some content. That's for sure. There were some really cool backgrounds that we were able to.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've loved your guys' like brand presence in your website, and it's looking sleek, which is really cool to see. Just kind of the progression that you guys have had over time.
Thanks.
And now, how many employees do you have? Like over 20?
Yeah. I always 20. We've been hiring so much lately. I keep forgetting whether it's the next hire is 21 or whatever, and whether to include myself, but yes, 20 basically. And so that's been incredible to see and experience. I mean, we went from two of us mid-July or July of 2020 to now around 20 of us. And so it's definitely a fun thing to see happen. And it's been extremely helpful. I mean, it's just with the growth that's happened, there's just constantly new needs. And so being able to bring everybody on who's our team just killed it and just being able to quickly get up to speed and continue to push us forward.
Trevor, something I kind of envy with you guys is y'all definitely decided to start with this company bootstrapped. Have y'all ever raised VC to get this going and grow it?
So we started with a very small family and friends round up front towards the end of 2019. And then from there, we hit essentially a decision point early 2020 of when Alex was doing this full time of, do we spend our time really focusing on selling to investors, if you will, or do we focus our time on selling to customers? And at that point we had started sales and realized, hey, we do have, the income here from being able to actually sell the product to actually grow organically. And so that was a very large discussion over, a good amount of time of just making that decision and realizing it's actually going to be much better for us to focus on selling to customers. Because at the end of the day, I think there's absolutely a time and place for VC funding and raising capital. And but I do think a lot of people just jump into it because that's what you do as a startup is you go raise funding. And a lot of times you'll ask and there's not really an answer of why do you need it. It's just, I need it because we're a startup. And so being able to take a step back and go, well, what are we going to truly use this for? I mean, at the end of the day, you raise funding, you immediately have a loss. And so it is a very big decision. Do you want to give that up? And not only part of your equity, but also even if you maintain ownership, you still have a very large stakeholder and they're going to want answers and they're going to have questions. And so that was a big part too, is, are we ready to do that and give up some of that ownership? And I think it's, for us, been awesome to maintain that amongst us too. It's just being able to make decisions quickly and do it the way that we want to do it and put the brand first. And so that was really how that decision was made. And then from there, we joined an accelerator program here in Austin, which has been awesome. And that's been really helpful just from both being able to talk to experts across the industries and be able to learn from them. And but other than that, there wasn't really any VC funding. It was more so, let's get that initial round, get this launched and test the market and then use sales to continue to
yeah, that's where I envy you big time. If I could do it all over again, in our last company, we raised a large seed round, a little over $3 million. We had a really great VC partner, only great things to say about Initialized. But you immediately have a boss, you're usually giving up a board seat and now your brain immediately goes to like quarter by quarter board meetings and what do I have to do today to make sure that I don't like have egg on my face from a sales perspective or from like a product iteration perspective, where we're at in the sprint versus just like you guys. I feel like the superpower that you and Alex have is you're able to focus on the customer, you're able to think about the brand, and then you're able to execute on top of that. If you have a quarter, maybe that didn't meet your expectations, well, you're only accountable to each other. So maybe you beat yourself up about it for an hour or two, but you don't have somebody else breathing down your back, wanting quarterly updates via email or kind of distracting the attention away. So I commend you guys. Not to say that I would ever not raise VC or venture capital again for people who don't know what VC is, but it definitely the second go around not doing that. So that'd be awesome if you guys can just bootstrap it all the way through and have control.
Yeah. And I mean, that's ideally what we're able to do. And I think like I said, there's absolutely time and place for it. It's not, hey, you should never do this or it's a bad thing to do, but it's definitely a big decision. And one not to take lightly for anybody who is considering.
Well, and Trevor, tell us more about like, how have you been able to do that? I mean, because so many, like you said, for so many people, the default is just, hey, I need to go raise money in order to build something, in order to start selling something.
Yeah.
So it's like it far precedes the idea of revenue, of ever having a single customer. It's like, walk us through just like how you guys were even able to accomplish that and how you're still able to achieve that today.
Yeah. I mean, At the end of the day, there's ways to be scrappy in general in terms of your spending, especially up front. And if you don't have that funding behind you, you're forced to do it and to really recognize, do we truly need to spend a lot on this, or can we, be creative with it and make sure that we're spending the money in the best ways possible? And so that's a big, it's just a mindset up front that you have. And then also really importantly is launching quickly. And I think there's an element that we've seen across just watching other companies and other founders is there is a desire. Obviously, you take pride in your product and whatever it might be, whether it's hardware or software, and wanting it to be perfect before you let the public see it. But at the end of the day, there's the only way to make income is to actually have a product out there. And so being able to put that out as soon as it's ready and then iterate upon it. And so that was a great example when I was saying, we're now on the Tri-Screen 2, which is just light years ahead in terms of just the design of it. But we're still really happy we got the V1 out as soon as we did, because that allowed us to, get customers immediately and be able to then use all of those sales to keep pushing us forward and invest in designing the second version, invest in building a team for customer experience and all these things obviously that come with building a company. And so continue to iterate upon that, just constantly looking at, what are our financials, how much are we making each month, how much profit are we getting in order to put elsewhere, and then using that and putting it all back into the company to push us forward quickly. It's just kind of, using those funds as opposed to using a VC.
Interesting. Well, and I saw on PR Newswire way back in 2020, they featured you guys as 2.2 million of sales within 5 months, and mentioned that you blew your goal out of the water. Like, how do you even go about setting a sales goal when you don't have a product in the market yet? And did you ever expect to triple, quadruple your target?
So yeah, especially in the beginning days, it's clearly a moving goal. You have no benchmark whatsoever. So I think that was the point there being, that was definitely, we were very excited about that number, and that was definitely more than we expected initially. Now, how do you truly make a goal there? I think that's probably more of an art than a science of just looking at what are we going to produce, what are our margins on that, and how much demand do we think there is to really sell those quickly. But at the end of the day, then from there, we had our benchmarks, especially after year one. It was great to be able to see how do we do in each month. We learned quickly that we are definitely a holiday gift guying product, or even if it's not a gift, it's just people looking out for wanting to purchase around that time. So learned quickly that that's a very large season for us, is making sure we have even more in stock over the holidays, and then be able to use that first year of metrics to make a goal for the following year and say, okay, that's what we got this year. Here's what we think we can do next year, and here's what we need to do it. So yeah, it was definitely exciting though, that first year, just seeing that and seeing that exponential growth right away.
And so the key to success for you guys, what would you say that would be? Is it really the team? Have a large part been the market and the timing? Has it been your manufacturing partners and vendors who've kind of helped y'all source the products and with your supply chain and stuff like that? There's kind of a lot to unpack there. We don't need to unpack all of it, but what have been the big keys of that for y'all?
Good question. I can't say there's a number one. I think everything you named is just all a big part of it. I think, at the beginning, yes, clearly it's an innovative product. And so being able to make a big splash with that is very key. And especially at the time that we did, was very impactful of saying, hey, there is a need for this. And so being able to bring that to market when we did, and make sure that we had the right manufacturers, make sure that we had the right team behind us, even if they're advisors behind us who were able to lead us and give us, answer a lot of our questions. And then from there, a lot of it, building a good, solid team. And we would not be anywhere close to where we are without the team that we have. And so that's obviously extremely important, to make sure that everybody that we have working with us is very aligned with what we're looking for, and very excited. I think that's been a great thing for us too, just even within recruiting, is being able to have a unique product and a unique vision and a brand that we're really excited about, and that I think most people who see us are excited about. And being able to join a company like that is just a fun experience. And so that's been helpful. And then, another big part is the IP. At that point, it's it gets interesting where it's, the IP is worth as much as you're willing to defend it with. But at the end of the day, it is definitely, because you are always going to have the knockoffs. They don't care about your IP. They're still going to try and knock you off, and it's up to you at that point to defend it. But it definitely prevents other people and other companies who are actually taking that seriously from jumping to that. And that's what we've seen, like I said, with those actual legitimate competitors, which we're absolutely okay with competition. I think that's what drives innovation forward. But that's where we've seen there is that they're not copying us verbatim. And so IP is another thing that we take very seriously and that we've invested a lot of time and money into, and making sure that we do that with both the TriScreen and with all of our future products.
I want to come back to the counterfeiting in a second, because I think it's fascinating what you guys have seen in that space. But I want to, before doing that, talk about, you brought up a point. You and Alex have known each other since you were toddlers, right? So
yeah.
What I know, I've seen personally in especially like earlier stage companies is just how important trust is among the founding team.
Yeah.
Could you break down for us like what it's like starting a company with a friend, and if you think that has any part in really like the long-term success you guys have driven here?
Yeah, so that's a really unique question, just because it's funny, me and Alex on our trip, I'm not sure if y'all saw that, the video that we have on our About Us page with the van trip that we took, where
I did see that. It was an awesome photo shoot. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we during that, I remember one time we were sitting there and we were listening to How I Built This podcast, and because we both love that podcast, and they were interviewing a founder, and she and her co-founder were best friends and had a huge fallout. And she said, I don't recommend anybody partners with a friend when they're starting a company. And we just looked at each other and laughed. And it's luckily for us, it has worked out very well. I mean, from day one, yes, there's that trust element. It's very difficult to build a company with somebody you just met, obviously, if you don't have that background with each other. And from there, it really helps that me and him are, we're the same in some ways, but we both are very different in our personalities and in our work styles. And so that's been extremely helpful. I mean, what makes him a great leader and CEO and just, product innovator is the fact that he wants to move quick, and that he's, very just a go-getter, and also always thinking of the next big thing. And I think that's really what's required of anybody who wants to build a product, and great for the CEO whose mind is always on growing and pushing things forward. And then for me, there's definitely an element of being more detail oriented. And so I think that there's a lot in between there, but it really helps of having him, the way we split it out, where he handles the manufacturing and the marketing / sales, and then I handle the operations and the customer experience. And so we've really taken the strengths that each of us have, and I think that really fits well into the roles that we've taken on. So is it for everybody to build a company with one of your best friends? Probably not, but luckily for us, it has worked out really well. And to date, I mean, we just learned a lot over time as well, just how to best work with each other.
That's awesome. And what let's kind of shift gears now towards some of the challenges that you guys face. Counterfeiting is one of them. So what is kind of the biggest challenge that y'all are facing right now?
Biggest challenges, I would say, well, one is really to date of what we had always listed out was the going on back order. I mean, last year we spent nearly half the year on back order, which is absurd. And so while you are still selling, you're leaving money on the table, like I mentioned earlier. Yeah. And so luckily we've been able to focus on that, because it was one of, if not the biggest challenges we had, and be able to find more creative solutions for freight to get it over here more quickly, and then just get ahead of the curve in terms of putting in that order with the manufacturer, because now things take twice as long as they ever did in the past. And so recognizing how that works and being able to prepare accordingly has put us in a much better position this year. Yes, the IP piece and just counterfeiting is definitely a big issue. I wouldn't say to the point of, where it's a risk where we're talking about, anything extraordinary, but it's just something that you never want to see and you want to take seriously. It's very frustrating to see companies try and steal customers away just by putting something out and copying you. I mean, this counterfeit product that I'm referring to is just, it's a company out of China that essentially just copied everything we had. And now their website looks a little different, but in the beginning it was pictures of us and said Xebec, and it was clearly just trying to copy everything we did. They took our reviews and put it on their website. And so there was, it was just as much copying as you can get. And so luckily we were able to get some takedowns just by that through, if they were using certain platforms. But at the end of the day, it is, they've made changes and it is very difficult to shut them down entirely. So that's public info. There now is an open lawsuit there. And so taking that and running with it and trying to get them out. But that's just something you grow and you figure out how to manage it as you go. I'd say initially it was a huge freak out on our end of the first time we saw a scam, and then I remember one of our advisors said in our marketing agency said, "Oh, with any success, you're going to see that. It's just a matter of time. That's something you're always going to have to deal with." But so I guess we can take it as a compliment, but more so it's just very frustrating.
Well, I just
and so that is.
I love that you guys are like. There's so much social media virality around what you guys are doing, right? So we already talked about TikTok. We talked about, getting tens of millions of views there. I also love that just a few weeks ago, you texted me this link to a YouTube channel. I didn't even appreciate it at the time, but it was like a YouTube sensation, Jay's 2 Cents, who has 3.7 million subscribers. And if I remember this right, he mistakenly reviewed a counterfeit product that had knocked off your guys' tri-screen. And then you sent him in information saying, look, we're actually suing these guys. Here's our product. And he reviewed them side by side and said, oh, yeah, you guys have to go with the real thing, which is mind blowing to me. How did that all unfold there?
So clearly and that's the exact company I was talking about. And because they had a couple of tech reviewers, and I don't know how they got in touch with them or how that worked out initially, but at the end of the day, we saw it. I think one of them was one of our employees saw it online, and Alex might have seen another one, and then just reached out to them and said, initially, especially if they're taking, revenue from people who use their link to purchase, then automatically you're involved in that. And so that's to be taken seriously. But we just reached out and said, hey, this is the deal. Wanted to let you all know. And luckily they were very accepting of that. And actually, as you can see in that video, the next video review, not a fan of anybody trying to do that to a tech product. And so, yeah, we were really excited to see them, especially, those were very large tech reviewers, and to see them take that seriously and provide a new review of our product and tell their customers, sorry about that. This was actually a knockoff that we reviewed previously.
I love that. I mean, the reach, especially that, he went back, Jay's 2 Cents went back and redid a video, got 500,000 views. And I think that's just, you guys, it seems like everything you touch turns to social media viral gold.
It is we take that is a huge priority. And as you mentioned, or your question earlier, Jake, what would you put as, what's really gotten you to where you are? Obviously, the brand is number one in our hearts all the time. And so really focusing on that and making sure that everything we put out there is within our brand. And a big part of that is making sure that everything that's online is how we want it to be. And you can't control that entirely, because there's going to be people who put fake things out there, but being able to take those seriously as they come in and make sure that people know who we actually are. I'd say the biggest frustration, at least personally for me, is when people truly are tricked. It's not that they wanted to save $100, so they went and bought the knockoff. It's that they actually thought that they were purchasing from Xebec, or they had no clue that Xebec existed. They somehow only saw this knockoff and then went for that one instead. And so it's nice to be able to get ahead of that, especially in this example with the tech reviewers, and have them correct that.
Totally.
Have you tried I have a fantasy about purchasing a billboard for 6 months for whatever I'm selling, whether it be a tech product or even this show. But I might execute on it probably in the next 2 years. I really want to. Have y'all ever tried more traditional forms of media, billboards, newspapers, even TV commercials, things like that? Do you have any experience doing that stuff?
Yeah. Actually, yes. That is not a crazy question. I would not, anything we're interested in seeing, testing, I guess is the best way to put it. That's a huge part. Our philosophy is test everything, like I mentioned earlier. And so, including advertising, that's all about testing. And so we haven't gotten a billboard, but we've definitely discussed doing that and figuring out, that's just extremely tough, because there's no pixel, there's no, it's online advertising, being able to a certain element, be able to see where your traffic came from. Clearly with a billboard, you have no clue what that's doing. So on our end, that's more of a focus of a branding launch as opposed to trying to direct ads directly there. But same with, I mean, TV, actually, there's some really cool things out there now where you'd have to ask Alex for more of the details because he's the one who leads all that. But we did just launch some TV ads, and that's more so though on your Hulu and things like that, not your traditional cable, where they're able to get data and use that to then target the people that you want to target. And so it's similar to online advertising, but now you're doing it through TV, which is really cool how TV ads have progressed in that sense, so that it's no longer just throw it on a channel who says they have a specific audience, but now you can actually do it through Hulu and target, your desired customer base. And so I don't think anything is, for us, it was, let's start with what we know is going to be the best, which is online advertising and through social media, Google, and all of that. But then as we continue to grow, you're going to hit periods where you go, okay, what's the next thing we can try out, and make sure that we're using the money most efficiently and investing it in the best things. And so the only way to do that is to try things, and maybe it'll work and you scale it out at that point, or maybe it won't work and you say, okay, we learned a lesson there.
Well, and Trevor, what's next at Xebec?
What is next? Yeah, so we have some other products that are in the works, and so I just say keep an eye out in the fall for to see some new products come out. We're always working on, iterating on the try screen. Also, just bring out new products. I mean, I mentioned the Air Stand. That was really our first dive into just outside of our flagship product, but being able to create that portfolio, if you will, of products to truly be the laptop accessories brand that people can take their office with them, whether it's in addition to just screens. So we're really excited for that and to offer that to customers and then continue to iterate on those products as we go forward.
Interesting. Can you have any hint of like what like arena it's in? Is it also computers?
No. So like I said, I mean, it's all around building out your remote setup, and so it's definitely, we're staying with laptop accessories. So I can tell you that we're not jumping into some other random industry, but otherwise we'll have to wait and see what launches once it actually launches.
I'm excited. So is it October that this is all going to start kind of rolling out?
I just in the fall. Yeah, it's in the fall it'll come out, and so but yeah, that'll be a big launch. We're excited. A lot of obviously a lot of publicity will push out around that, and just being able to increase our products to really help customers be able to take that with them and maintain their productivity wherever they are and take their office with them.
Love it.
That's awesome. And, kind of getting towards the end here, any advice to the listeners? We have a lot of listeners who are young, aspirational. They may not know what the future looks like for them. They could be on a huge spectrum of the bell curve, whether they're underperforming right now, whether they're in school, maybe they don't have the job they want right out of college, or don't like what it is that they're doing. Any advice that you would impart, given kind of your 10 years of experience here out of school?
Yeah, that is there's a lot of question. I would say, but in general, just anybody, I mean, whether it's graduating or trying to figure things out, I mean, I think it's always important just to explore and to constantly be talking to people, researching, figuring out more importantly, I guess, reflecting on your own interests and your own desires and what you would like to get out of your life, both personally and career-wise, but also then going forward and trying to learn as much as you can from other people. I think even that's something I probably and always trying to even improve on, is making sure that I'm learning from other people and seeing what else there is that's out there and what aligns with my interest. And even if it's something that you may not be interested in, you're still going to learn from them and take something from others as you have conversations. And being able to use all that to then, get out there, do what you want to do. I think, like I said, if it's for specifically a question around entrepreneurs knowing when to take that next step or when to truly push something out there, I clearly lived by the philosophy of test it out first. And if you don't have to risk everything, your whole life at one point, don't do that. But clearly it's worked for some people. I mean, my favorite book was Shoe Dog, and he risked a lot out there. And so there's definitely a lot of successful founders who've done the opposite. But I hope that answers your question.
Any ways that we could be supporting you and Xebec, Trevor? Is there like a link, or is there anywhere you want to send like bell curve listeners over to either purchase products or support you guys on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's actually a big thing I don't even think we touched on, was just that we are directly through our website. So you can only buy the TriScreen through our website. And so go to www.thexebec.com, THEXEBEC.com, or if you just Google Xebec TriScreen, you'll find it first on there. But so that's where they can find it. And then also once we launch our other products, that's where they'll find that. And so, that's been a big part of our, in line with the brand, is keeping things solely with us. And so we chose specifically not to go on Amazon or anything like that, and truly do the e-commerce route through our website only.
It's awesome.
How'd you come up with the name Xebec?
Yeah, so that's it started, we were just, of course, trying to think of things that were both made sense, but were also unique, so that it's not some generic name that nobody ever knows how to find on Google. So their SEO is a big part of that. But Xebec it actually is a real word. Most people haven't even heard of it, but it is a Mediterranean ship from back in the old days, and it's a 3-masted ship. So initially, full transparency, initially it was really targeted towards the TriScreen, obviously, 3 screens. And then since then, now that the TriScreen is no longer our only product, nor is it what we intend to be our only product, it really more represents just the brand a whole of, exploration and venture and being able to do things on the go. Whereas it also just fits the bill of being a unique name, of course, that, if you Google Xebec, it's going to be tough to come across a lot of other articles about Xebec.
Hey, so many layers. I love that. The 3-masted, the ship. Gosh, okay. That worked out beautifully.
It is funny though. That is, people are constantly mispronouncing it, and so and then just trying to say my email even over the phone is sometimes tough. But no, we love the name, and it definitely represents our brand.
Dude, love it. Awesome. All right, well, we can wrap there. Thanks so much. It's been great to have you, Trevor, and to kind of get the story out there of how entrepreneurs go from 0 to 1 in different ways, and how you guys have really just taken such a unique path to success. So thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us this week on The Bell Curve. If you loved this episode, go ahead, give us a follow, and rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. It would mean the world to Tom and I. We come up with new episodes every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next week.